Hey guys, we are back.
You could bring us in, Chris.
All right. Hi, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Chris, and this is Keanu. What we try to do is we try to be extraordinary. Extraordinary?
Extraordinary.
We want to be
where that
extra.
comes from? Have we even talked about that?
No.
Why we call it the Extraordinary Podcast?
I feel like we have.
I think we have.
Okay.
Alchemy is the process of taking the ordinary and transforming it into something extraordinary.
When you say that in post, could you like do a little bling or something like that?
I don't know Leah's capabilities.
Yeah.
I've seen her make an Arizona tea can dance, so I'm sure she can do that.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So that's why we're the Extraordinary Podcast.
Well, yeah.
Chris has something he wants to talk about.
Yeah. So it's the notion of MVP, and then I throw around these. You know, I'm not big on the TLAs, 3-letter acronyms. But
Well, we can start with that. What is MVP?
Yeah, what is MVP? Minimal viable product. And the thought is, and we were talking about this kind of off camera. The thought is that if you don't M the MVP, you will run out of money. You'll destroy your company. And I always have heart for entrepreneurs who make a really big mistake, which is the mistake is they think if the product is like fully baked and completely formed and perfect, then it's ready to go to market. And that is absolutely false. Mm-hmm. And I tell people and I counsel them, anyone that'll listen to me, and I'm hoping it's someone on this podcast, that if you look at your offering, whether it's a service or a product, it doesn't matter. If you look at your offering and you list out all the things that it can do, as a beginning stage entrepreneur, what you have to do is you have to find the 2 or 3 things that make the biggest impact and go with those. So it's easy for me in software because in software, there's 100 things that you can put into a piece of software. Well, what are the 2 things that are going to make the biggest difference?
Yeah, it's fair.
And you start with those 2, and then you build off of that. So my question to you is, why do people think that they have to have the thing fully formed before they send it out?
Well, I think that's a personality thing. There are a lot of people that feel like, or it's more natural to think done is better than perfect, right? And that's my mindset. Done is better than perfect. Start, figure it out, and we correct it along the way. Another quote. This is one of my favorites. It was Eisenhower or Churchill. A good plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan executed tomorrow. Right. So
definitely sounds like Churchill.
Yeah, I loved it. Oh, I love it. The violently is what gets me. Like a good plan violently executed today. So get out there and go and get started and figure it out along the way. But the paralysis by analysis that some folks experience, like it has to be perfect. Well, that's so subjective. I mean, perfect to who? Perfect to you? Right. You go to the market with it and you've done all of these things and all of these bells and whistles and you spent all of this time and you wasted this money, even if you think, well, it doesn't really cost me anything because I'm the developer and I'm the engineer and I'm building the product. It's costing you something. It's costing your time, your energy, your focus. That is worth something. So it's still costing you. And then you go to the market with it and then they don't respond to it. So you would have learned that if you would have started with an MVP and made it minimal and just gone and said, what do you want? What is the public telling me here? So there's different mindsets there. It's a little bit more natural for me to just get out there and figure something out and try it and let the market speak because customers speak with their wallet.
That's it. I'm glad you said that because I always put I don't know why I'm struggling here.
Well, this is
but
our
I put
third
a voting
recording today.
I put a voting mechanism in place, and I have the customer vote on the usefulness of the and there's little slips of paper. I have them if you want to see one. Do you want to see one?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a ballot.
That was so
it's
cheesy.
Your ballot. It's a ballot.
Yeah, it's a ballot. I'm gonna put. I got 10 votes here. I'm not giving to you.
How many votes do I get? How many votes do you got?
I got. It looks like I have a lot.
Bunch of ones.
But yeah, I work for tips. I work for tips. I'm going to do a little aside, whether you cut this or not.
The fact that you have cash is impressive. I never have
But
cash.
I mean, this is the life of a musician, isn't it? And so I went to this happened in Gastonia. I went to the cycle center, and I needed to buy a shield for my helmet, and it was like $35. Wasn't a lot. And I asked the young woman behind the counter if she wouldn't mind if I paid her all in ones, because I wanted to get rid of them, and I had a ton of them, I had like a thick stack. And I said, "Can I pay you in ones?" And because I kind of thought it was a value, because people, retail is always one. So I thought, would it be okay if I paid you in ones? I said, because I get paid in tips. That's how I make most of my money. And she goes, yeah. She did not want to ask me, but she felt like she was forced to ask me what I did for those tips. And I said, well, I'm a musician. She goes, oh, thank God.
I think what's okay. The fact that you would be the kind of person that if it was, you said have these little slips, these little pieces of paper.
That's right.
Right. I thought you literally had something from your Avid Exchange days.
I know.
So looking up and seeing a $10 bill. Yes, that is the ballot that people vote with.
That's the only thing, because money equals value. And then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build value, and I'm trying to use money to symbolize that value. And it still works today because people will buy valuable things. And the problem is this, the value that you think. And so I go back to MVP. And why does an entrepreneur's ego get in the way of a true MVP all the time? And that's because their value of the thing is way higher than the person that they're selling to, typically. Mm-hmm. If it's not, then the sell happens and then they buy it and it's not a big deal. And I believe that entrepreneurs think that if they get it perfectly, which is defined in their head, then they won't have to do one thing, which is they won't have to sell it. It'll just sell itself, which is completely false.
Yeah, agreed.
Completely false. And the problem is their ego is such involved with the development of the product that they can't see outside of it. They can't see why it's a bad idea. They can't see why it's a good idea, and they can't understand. I'll stay off the word see, but they can't understand why people just aren't consuming this without them having to do anything.
I think a good trigger for that, as far as mindsets, is if you're blaming the customer for not understanding,
That's good.
you probably
That's it.
have your egos involved, right? Well, they don't get it. They don't understand. They're not. No, it's not on them.
Yeah.
It's on you.
Yeah.
Back to ownership and responsibility. All of life's problems can be solved with responsibility and communication. But, getting back to if you're blaming the customer, I'm trying to think of if someone is going down that path right now and making this episode valuable to them. If you're starting to get in the mindset of the customer doesn't get it, or they don't understand.
Yeah. By the way, I met with an entrepreneur like that, because one of my principles and what I coach entrepreneurs on is you have to be attractive. That doesn't mean that you have to have a square jaw and, stand up straight or beautiful hair. Is that you have to be the kind of individual that other people want to be around. And this was years ago. And this guy comes into my office and we're talking about it. And he's like, oh, people are just so freaking stupid. He was using way more colorful language than that. He said, there's just such idiots and they can't see right in front of them and they can't do. And I'm like, listen, man, this is the way you think about your customers and you can't get this idea off the ground. It's because nobody wants to be around you. And I just met this guy and he was completely shocked. I can only imagine what he said about me.
I'm glad you told him.
Oh, I couldn't help. I had to tell him. I owed it to the world.
Yeah.
Because it was just so bad. But to your point, they were blaming. By the way, there's a thing. If you're an entrepreneur, also there's the thought of I have a great idea to improve the business. I go take it to my boss, and they don't see it. That's on you also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the whole point is I don't believe that you either inside or outside the business. I don't believe that you've educated the individual on the value. Things just don't sell themselves.
Absolutely not.
If they do, it's a commodity and you're down to price.
It just takes that time as far as having a minimum viable product. I've definitely been there when I got into, I'll always use this service-based business. Obviously, it's where I got my start and learned a lot, but also made more mistakes than anything. There was coaching, there was workshops, there was speaking, there were coaching packages. That one time I had 5 different coaching packages. Because it's like, well, I don't know what they're going to want. And I just kept trying things. And also my problem was like, I'd get out and try it. And if it worked, then all of a sudden I'm adding it to the menu. And it became Cheesecake Factory. And then we even went down a path of creating a online portal where folks could, it was all soft skills development. That was our specialty. They could buy a portal. And I was looking at building a business, not just a service. We'll talk about the difference later, but something that can scale beyond my time. And we built out this process, or this training module program on soft skills, every soft skill, communication, conflict resolution, everything, empathy, all of it, and started to sell it. So I know what it's like to start to get just doing way too much. And what's the minimum viable product? And then I learned the hard way after investing a lot of time and energy and seeing that's not even something I really enjoy. I like spending time with people. I just got back to the minimum viable product was I'll spend an hour with you for $300 an hour.
Okay. How important is that journey, though?
It has to happen.
It has to happen.
Well, and it's, there's a book called The Divine Mentor where it talks about, I mean, it took a lot of things from this book. One thing that really stuck with me, there's 2 teachers in life, wisdom and consequence. Right? I can learn from your wisdom, or I can learn from my own consequence. There's no other way. And some things, it has to be consequence. You just have to. And a lot of entrepreneurs, to be honest, you have to. They're going to take those licks, and then it's on you to decide how you rebound. Does someone like Chris come into your life and say, you're the problem, and then you get to course correct, or you can keep that pride, but you'll die with your pride. And the company will die with your pride. But it's okay to want to say, you know what, I want to get out there and I want to try it because I need to learn from those consequences. At the same time, now there's wisdom there that someone else can learn from. And when I share that wisdom with other people and they still go learn from their consequence, there's still grace from that because they still had to learn either way. So definitely been there as far as not having the minimum, but I think that these play off each other, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this. How M is M, right? Minimum. How minimal can it be? But it also, again, minimum viable. It has to be viable.
That's right.
So how do those things work in tandem as far as deciding what is M enough while also still being viable?
Yeah, I mean, and this is where people are going to start turning the podcast off, because I'll tell you, my thing is, I'll sell the product without it even being formed at all. It's just a thought on a PowerPoint. And I'm perfectly comfortable in selling that. And I'll tell you, at my last company, the most profitable product we had, it's not the one that made us the most money, but it was the one that had the most profit, started with a telephone and a spreadsheet. That was its M, which is really M. It's so... And I think I think what happens is something I don't suffer from, and I'm just going to let people know about this, because if you suffer from this, you're going to struggle. And that is, people put a lot of value in complexity, and I put a ton of value in simplicity. And I that's something that I've always kind of done, but I don't mind. It doesn't bother me at all to not have a working prototype and go to someone and sell it. And then make it.
I agree.
I mean, my last company was famous for that.
I agree completely. I mean, you see...
But you know what that forces you to do, though? It forces you to sell the value, not the thing.
Absolutely. Well, you see, again, the market's voted. So it allows you to test and say, people want this. I have enough people that want this that I'm going to go and make it now. Or I didn't get the interest that I thought I would get. Don't go make it. And Alchemy 1 is a testament to that. I knew people wanted it, but I had spent 3 years visioneering that. I was selling this long before we ever had a single square foot to sell. So then we open and fill 10 offices in 3 weeks and profitable in the first month. Well, it was already sold before, and it was very minimal. Do you want access, a desk, or an office? Period. There's a lot of things that you can do in co-working that we try to not let the scope creep too much as far as what can be done. Virtual addresses and virtual offices and things like that. It's like, yeah, you can do that, but it's kind of a distraction from what we're really here to do. And Leo will tell you, based on the Charlotte location, the folks that are spending $25 a month on a mailbox are the biggest problems. You know, so it's like, do you really have to do that? I don't know. We're still in the middle of figuring that out. How do you strip that away? Because that wasn't our product.
Why is that?
Leah, why is that?
Off camera.
Off camera. The people that spend the least tend to be the biggest problems.
Well, and
right?
I mean, I have an opinion of that, and that is unrealistic expectations, or unset expectations.
We'll have people. The direct deposit for a $5,000 office hits like that on the first of every month, $5,000, and you'll have people with a $25 mailbox that are 3 months late. You know, so it's just, again, it's like who is your audience? Well, that was an acquisition. So we're having to refine who we are and what we do. Whereas at Downtown Gastonia, this was our product. We got to build it from the ground up, which I would so much rather do, by the way. That's a conversation for another time as well. Is like, would you rather build from the ground up or take something over?
Well, we alluded to is like, are you getting the customers that you want? And do you know what do you know what your customers are? You know, do you know what a good customer is?
Absolutely. Yeah. But it takes time too. I mean, again, especially in another market. Charlotte's market is not Gaston County. So now we're refining and we're losing the people that aren't our people and we're attracting the people that are. And that's okay. That's like, I understand I'm not everybody's cup of tea either. Like, I understand there are people that want the more simple, just show up and shut up and get your work done and go home. I understand that. I will send you the link to Regis if that's what you're looking for, right? But what we're building here is this and this culture and this connection. And I understand if that's not what you're looking for. It's totally fine. Yeah. But the minimum viable product, going back to how M is M, tell me what you would tell someone. I'm the kind of person, I've gotten way out over my skis. I've planned too much. I've done too much. And now I'm honestly tired because I haven't even gone to the market yet. And I have all of this product to develop, this behemoth.
Yeah.
Help guide me back to minimal.
Yeah, well, so if you're down the road on that, I'd be seriously concerned if you're going to run out of money or not. So the first question I ask is, when are you going to run out of money? Because I know this. I know that when you introduce it to the market is going to reject it. And that's really valuable because they're going to reject it and you're going to ask them, well, why did you reject it? And they're going to tell you 2 or 3 things. You say, you're missing this. You're missing this and you're missing this. And I'll do business with you. And then what you do as an entrepreneur, you add that and then it gets rejected again. And then you say, well, what? And they say, well, it needs this and it needs this. And so if you're the type of person that has put a ton of time, money, and effort into the idea, product or service, it doesn't matter, and you haven't introduced it to the marketplace, the first thing I'd say is you got to introduce it to the market. And the way that you introduce it to the market is you get someone to buy it.
I'm trying to think of an example of some service-based businesses that we might have, or example of a product. Do you have an example that you would share?
Well, I mean,
like, how do you strip it down?
It was my whole, I mean, how did we build an accounts payable automation platform? And that is because we started with something completely different. And it, you know, 3 revolutions, we got to the 4th one after 3 years. But and I'm trying to think about a service-based business is that, you know, I wonder what it was like. I don't want to bring this up. I was going to say, I wonder what it was like for the first, do you remember you see the signs all the time that they'll come and pick your dog poop up? I wonder what it's like for the first person to come up with that idea.
It's a good point.
And so that's like a service-based business that if you pitch to somebody, I got this great idea. There's no way that anyone said, I'm going to go from yard to yard and pick up everyone's dog poop.
Yeah.
And it started as something else and it morphed into that.
That's true. I think that's a great example to think of because it'll stick in people's mind too. Maybe they started with all things landscaping. Yeah. Right. And we're going to, completely change the layout, the features. We're going to put in decks and everything. Right?
That's right.
And then it's like, hey, actually, I just got some dog poop. Do you mind picking that up and cutting my grass?
Yeah.
And it's like, Well, if enough
much?
people said that, if enough people said that, all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have a business at volume.
You do.
And you wanted to do this whole landscaping thing.
Right.
And it could be, I want to build your house.
Right.
And you ended up with, I can build one house, or I can have 1,000 people that say, pick up my dog poop and clean my, mow my lawn.
That's it. I was sitting at a bar one time eating oysters with a buddy of mine. And I put the oyster down in the middle and I said, wonder who the first person was that said, hey, you should eat this.
Whoever it is, I don't agree with them. I do not like an oyster.
But that's that whole thing is that initially ideas that are somewhat revolutionary sound absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's a matter of getting a consumer to purchase it.
As we're talking, I have an example of this. Have a bar, South Point Social, over in Belmont.
I played
it,
there.
and it was
How
awesome.
was I good?
Yeah, it was a good time. I was in the front row, the whole time, singing along, having a good time.
I didn't play. It was Cass and Chris.
Me, my wife, and your family, and then a bunch of strangers. But it was a good time. Someone had said, "Well, are you going to add?" Or when they said, "When are you going to add food?"
Yeah,
and I said, "Never." And they was like, "Well, do you want to add food?" No. Drinks. It's just drinks, purely, because one, I have been told by a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, do not get in food unless you have an absolute calling and passion for it, because it is a losing business.
I appreciate that.
I respect Jim Morasso and Webb and what he's done. He's built a very successful business, but he has an absolute passion for being a restaurateur.
And that's a great example. The other thing is he started in the restaurant when he was 14 years old.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hopefully I got that right.
I'm pretty sure you're
it's
right.
In his blood.
So for me, it was just we bring in food trucks, and the food trucks get to provide the food. We just provide the drinks. It's a minimum viable product. That's all we're doing. And anytime the scope tries to creep again, it could be tempting to say, yeah, but we can make a little bit more. Yeah, but you can also lose a lot more, and that means more people, and that means more problems, and that means more tension, and that means more, frustrations and more waste. Like the waste on drinks is very minimal compared to food. You don't have to worry about that. So that was an example that I was thinking of. But being able to let the market vote, what is the thing people are really buying? And if you don't know, ask, what are you really buying here? There is, this is a personal tension as well that I'm processing. I've had plenty of people say, can I just pay a monthly fee and just come to the mastermind? I don't need the space. I want in on that mastermind. Can I just do that? I don't know. I've said no, obviously, because we don't do it. But it's definitely a thought. Like, do we just sell the service?
That's right.
I think the reason why I don't, now talk about minimum viable product, it's just the mastermind. You don't even need the space. I want that, but I go back and forth of, are you then sacrificing who we are and building shoulder to shoulder by only selling that service? Also, could you offer that? And then people come to enough masterminds, are like, hey, sign me up for the full thing. Like, I'm in. So it could be a great lead gen. So I don't share anything from having figured it out and figuring it out every day and still processing it every day. And even someone like you who's done what you've done, there's still always a great deal of humility of, I have this experience, but I'm also still curious to figure out how to do it moving forward. So I think everyone can empathize with this. How minimal does it need to be? Maybe it needs to be more minimal and just viable enough to go and start selling it. Because you said, I'm asking them how long until you run out of money. But I'm asking, how long are you running out of any resource? Because for a lot of them, it's say, well, I'm not really spending money on it. I'm just developing it.
Right.
But your time, your energy,
Yeah.
That's all you have as an entrepreneur. I've bootstrapped every business that I've ever built to this point. You didn't come in with any money, but it was time and energy. How much time and energy do you have? Because dream fatigue is a real thing too.
Yeah, for sure.
You start running after that mountain so long and you get tired by the time you get there, that by the time you caught it, you're like a dog chasing the mail truck. You don't know what you do if you caught it.
Yeah.
Right? So you get tired by the time that you get there, and you need to be mindful of all of those resources as you're getting to market and just doing enough to start to introduce yourself and get people to decide what they want and pay you for it.
That's it. Minimal. I'll say, to kind of put a bow on it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to make it really minimal, as long as it has the value to it, which is the viable.
Absolutely.
Is it can't be so minimal that it has no value.
Minimum viable product. What's that light flashing? Memory card just ran out.
Yay!
That means we're done. You might just get audio in the last 10 seconds here, but see you on the next
Hopefully
one.
it's like a freeze frame.
Yeah, done. This is just audio. They can't even see us. We can do whatever we want right now.
Let's go.